So, I recently watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and this is how I feel.
You feel love.
And while I can admit, when the movie first came out, I don't think I felt any special way about it, but I've concluded that it is criminally underrated and in my opinion one of the most enjoyable MCU movies of all time. And of course, it isn't without any flaws, but that can be saved for another video. Besides from the gorgeous VFX, vibrant colors, star-studded cast, and actual good comedy, and not to mention one of the best soundtracks for me personally, this movie has such a beautiful theme, and they portray it in such an accurate and fun way. The theme, of course, being family. Now, if any of you out there have a quote-unquote dysfunctional family, then you'll probably relate very well to this movie, and I love that about it. Whether it be the arrogant brotherly arguments between Rocket and Peter, or the genuine hatred that Nebula and Gamora have for each other. If you have a brother or sister, you know how competitive things can get, and sometimes it can cause true strain. Nebula has never been a favorite character of mine, but when she said this...
You were the one who wanted to win, and I just wanted a sister!
Yeah, that hit me in the feels. And I bet a lot of people feel the same way, especially if you have a competitive relationship with a sibling and can understand that feeling. And where this movie truly shines for me is in the small moments where you see how this dysfunctional family care for and love one another more than anything in the galaxy. Here are a couple of those scenes.
He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. I'm sorry I didn't do none of it right. I'm damn lucky you're my boy.
It's beautiful.
It is. And so are you.
Even though we yelled at him, I was always mean. And he stole batteries he didn't need.
Well, of course not.
You will always be my sister.
If you kill me, you'll be just like everybody else.
What's so wrong with that?
All these moments are beautiful and deserve praise, but that last one where Jax lifts Mantis over his head while being pulled into the ground really sits well with me. Mantis is that weird new member of the family that has attached herself to Drax, but the movie makes you think that Drax might not even like her. And that's when this quote comes into play.
You see, in their last moments, people show you who they really are.
When you apply this to the scene, it adds so much more weight. Drax doesn't know if he'll come back from this, but without hesitation, he lifts Mantis up to keep her from joining him in what could be his ultimate demise. Now, out of all the relationships in this movie, whether it be Yondu and Peter or Rocket and Groot, my actual favorite would probably be Drax and Mantis. There's something about the innocence from Mantis and the straightforwardness from Drax that really create a fun dynamic. And even though Drax is the more comedic character of the family, there are still small genuine moments that make me just... For example, this scene where Drax and Mantis are casually talking, and not to mention this absolute gorgeous scenery, when Drax mentions how Mantis reminds him of his innocent daughter, and this happens. The way Drax just stares off into the sunset with what seems to be no facial expression while Mantis is just crying her eyes out, it brings so much more depth to his character. Mantis is taking all this pain that Drax feels more than likely every day, and you can see how he's made peace with it. I'd like to believe the reason he is so quote-unquote okay with it is because he has a new family that he loves so much. And this is where we circle back to the main theme of the movie. There are certain relationships that are built and further developed, and I absolutely love it. Another underrated relationship is Rocket and Yondu. They spend a lot of the movie together and start out butting heads, but you start to notice how similar they really are, as seen here.
I know who you are, boy, because you're me.
And in that ending battle when Rocket comes to save him, he tries to hide that he cares for him by saying, "Not without Quill," but when Yondu fights him on it, he says this,
Not without you.
And like I said earlier, it's the small moments like these that just make this movie so much better. Rocket is the most stubborn person on the team by far, and shows the least amount of emotional attachment, but in this moment, you can see his love that he suppresses come out because he's tired of losing his family. Now let's talk about Peter Quill. In this movie, he's much more comfortable with the Guardians, and they've obviously become his family even if he hasn't noticed. Once he meets Ego, he becomes almost blind to everything around him because he's finally met his father that he's been searching for his entire life. Put yourself in his shoes. You get abducted by an alien right after your mom dies and your dad was never in your life. So your new father figure, who happens to be a blue alien that teaches you things that aren't necessarily the best lessons to be teaching a young child. Obviously he's going to be awestruck when he realizes that his real dad is out there and happens to be a god.
Small G, son.
He's finally found that real family member that he's been searching for. But then, obviously, Ego reveals his grand plan and Peter is absolutely crushed. In this scene, you can literally see the world crumbling around him. But then... Now, I believe Yondu's redemption arc is one of, if not the most beautiful moments in this movie. He swooped in and picked him up just like he did when he was a child. But this time he tells Peter, heck, let's just roll the clip.
I'm sorry I didn't do none of it right. I'm damn lucky you're my boy.
After struggling with all his mistakes and regrets, after losing a group of lifelong friends, after being locked away to rot by his own crew, he finally embraces the love of the people around him and accepts the pain that comes with it. He no longer wants to push anyone away. He wants to do the right thing because...
I ain't done nothing right my whole damn life, Rat. You need to give me this.
Peter is his son, and he swoops in knowing that he won't come back. He gave the ultimate sacrifice because the hole inside of him was finally filled with love.
And you push away anyone who's willing to put up with you, because just a little bit of love reminds you how big and empty that hole inside you actually is.
I said shut up!
I know them scientists what made you never gave a rat's ass about you.
I'm serious, dude!
Just like my own damn parents who sold me, your own little baby, into slavery. I know who you are, boy, because you're me.
This movie is underrated. I don't think he gets talked about near enough, and if I'm being totally honest, it's one of my favorite MCU movies. Heck, maybe even a favorite movie of all time. It embodies what a good MCU film is. There are stakes, genuine relationships, people that make mistakes, and instead of just being a bland superhero movie, instead it's a movie about the intricacies of family, being okay with normality, and how at the end of the day, family isn't just blood relatives. It's anyone who loves you unconditionally.